left, right.
50 episodes. Take that, podcast peoples. Either way, you're tuned in for episode 50 of SipTalk. We're talking about tolerance. Well, we started talking about tolerance. My goal is to shift the conversation, at least in my network and my influence, towards tolerance. Because in my opinion, people right now are not, tolerance isn't a thing anymore. Sticks and stones may break my bones. You haven't heard in 2-3 decades. So I think people need to be a little more understanding of others, and you'll see James really brings great perspective when it comes to looking at other people. And I don't know. Either way, watch, listen to the episode, and I'll see you on the other end. This is Sip Talk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Of course, let's go.
Cheers.
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 Today we have the renowned Rosh Galeb, photographer extraordinaire, videographer extraordinaire, the foundation for Sip Talk. Really, couldn't do this without you. You built the platform, and now now we're cruising at high altitudes. We have James of Boswell, live in South Carolina, accountant, referee, philosopher. I'm missing something in there. What's the one I'm missing? Bartender.
I don't know.
Bartender.
Yeah, there we go.
So very opinionated.
Yo, I got so much shit in California. On the last day that I was there, we went to a bar. We were eating outdoors at a taco place, and the server comes up and takes our drink order. And I order a Hemingway daiquiri,
Okay.
which for those of you who don't know, a Hemingway daiquiri is going to be rum, lime juice, grapefruit juice, and Luxardo. So out of those 4 ingredients, only one of those is going to be questionable as to whether or not a bar is going to have it. And so, yeah, the Luxardo, of course. And the server comes up to me and she says, "Look, we don't have a blender." I was like, "Nah, this drink doesn't require that."
Are they stirring it?
And she's like, "Well, it's not on the menu." I was like, "I guarantee you've got most, if not all, the ingredients." And my brothers give me all sorts of crap. Why are you ordering a drink off the menu? And because it's a simple drink. So she goes to the bar and you're like, "Yeah, we don't have Luxardo. We can't make it." I was like, "Go ahead and sub in triple sec. I guarantee you have that. It's a Mexican place that serves tacos. You're going to have triple sec because you make margaritas." And bro's like, "Why are you being so difficult?" I'm like, "It's not a difficult drink."
That could be a difficult drink.
No, it's not.
It's not difficult.
4 ingredients.
It's not difficult once you learn it. But a lot of things, and where we're going with this, a lot of things can be daunting before you're familiar with them. And I think what you were just talking about in terms of moving forward and being afraid of change and things like that, and we were talking about beforehand on the topic of tolerance when we spent 10 minutes deciding what we were going to talk about.
It's good to be spontaneous.
I think I need to open this drink, actually.
Yeah, we're giving the users an insight into the writer's room, all 3 minutes of it.
Yeah, well, all 3 minutes of it.
So you're drinking.
You got a Bud Light with lime.
And you are.
I got another Goose Island IPA. Cheers, happy birthday, Raj.
Oh, thank you.
Used to serve the Goose Island IPA at the bar. I'm drinking a Bud Ice that I stole from my roommate because he stole a whole bunch of my beer, so it's payback time.
Well, that's roommate living, and
yeah,
that's. I told you would like that.
It's really good.
The Bud Light with lime is not a terrible drink.
Nah, it's really good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But I do remember, James, in the Sip Talk episode where you were talking about building a bar. I do remember one of your must-have is a triple sec. So I do understand the whole.
It's a critical ingredient. It goes in so many things.
Yeah. And the margarita is a basic drink. If you went to the issue is you ordered off the menu, which
right, but I didn't order a complicated drink.
If you go to like a Fridays and they have a cocktail menu, all right, with all the
this wasn't a Fridays.
The fabulous flapjack, drink, it's got 12 ingredients in it. But then you're like, "Can I get a rum and Coke?" That's okay. That's one way to order up the menu. But when you ask for a Hemingway daiquiri, there's a really high probability someone is not going to know that. Now you know it because you've had that experience before.
All right. So let me tell you something about my experience when I was bartending. Is if somebody ordered a drink that wasn't on the menu, which happened fairly commonly, I would usually be like, if it was something that I already knew the drink, then I'd just be able to inventory what I had in the ingredients, be like, yo, I can make that or I can't. But if it was a drink that I had never heard of before, when I first started bartending, I had this weird anxiety about what would happen if somebody ordered a drink that I didn't know, because I wanted to pretend like I knew more than I did. And so I got over that really quick, because if somebody ordered a drink that I hadn't heard of before, all I would do is I just pull up my phone and search for it. And usually for practically any drink, you're going to find 4 or 5 different variations on a given recipe. So I would just look and kind of like take those 4 or 5 different variations, put them into one recipe in my head. And then if I could make it, great. If not, whatever. But it was something where whenever somebody ordered a drink that I hadn't made before, I was like, great, I get to make something new. Like, I've never done this before. Let's see how this goes. Because they're going to have an idea as to what it's supposed to taste like. I've never made it before. So let's see if I can make it better than what they were expecting. Fucking great. So I always loved it when I got to make a drink that I hadn't made before. That's how I learned.
And you wonder why we throw bartender in your introduction here. This is
but
you take very
like
seriously.
If a bartender, if like I get it, if you're a server and you don't know drinks, that's fine. But don't just say like, well, we can't make that. Go talk to the bartender. Be like, yo, I got this customer who wants to make a Hemingway daiquiri. Do you know how to make that? And if the bartender has any worth whatsoever, they're going to say one of 2 things, which is, yeah, I can make that, or let me look it up and we'll see if we get the ingredients.
You'd be surprised the number of people that do not think like that. And as someone who runs a business, I am no longer surprised by the fact that you ask somebody to do something simple and they are completely.
Now, if you're going to a specialized cocktail bar where they've got a very refined menu where they do all sorts of unique craft cocktails or whatever, that's probably a time that you're not going to order off the menu because they've got all these crazy things that they do. But if you're just going to your kind of average restaurant that's going to have some kind of a bar menu that they've got their own cocktails that they came up with or whatever, I don't see there being any problem ordering off the menu as long as you're not ordering some drink that's obscure that you're not going to be able to find it, that's got like 3 different ingredients, one source from Guam, one's source from like Sudan, and the other one's going to be from like this small fishing village in like Alberta, Canada. Like if you're ordering that, you're a dick. But if you're ordering a drink that has relatively common ingredients,
I love how set you are. You are so set in your own ways, and actually, this falls perfectly in tolerance.
That's where,
because he knows what he wants, and he might be actually not so accepting of differences.
Yeah, but that's this tolerance thing is the ability to deal with adversity, and not let it slow you down, and not let it just affect you in any way. And some people shut down. James challenges it and faces it head on when it comes to drinks, at least.
Dude, I'll give you another story very quickly from California.
Okay, we're all ears. Tiana, can you open the comments on the bottom right so you can read them?
So, one of my brother's friends is dating a girl that's herbalism and whatnot, and so this chick's convinced him to go into some kind of like communing with plant spirits with the ayahuasca plant. That doesn't mean they're doing ayahuasca and like getting the hallucinogenic properties or anything from it. They're just communing with the plant spirit, which means that they're basically, when they get home from work, they're just kind of locking themselves in a room and thinking about ayahuasca for like a straight month.
Wait. So I would love to do ayahuasca. But
that's one thing. That's not what they're doing.
No.
All they're doing is like communing with the plant spirit ayahuasca.
They're communicating with it? What are they doing?
Dude, don't ask me to explain this. It doesn't make any sense to me. But so my brother didn't defend this. My brother thinks very similar to the way I do. But my brother's friend, when he was explaining this to me, I was like, dude, that sounds like total horseshit. And he's like, no, man, like it's this whole like asceticism thing. And I was like, dude, you're way too open-minded. Like at some point when somebody does something that's completely idiotic, you just got to be able to call it out and be like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
I totally agree with that point, actually. Tolerance doesn't mean that you accept them off everything. Otherwise, you'd be a people-pleasing left and right. And there's no point. you just basically agree with everything, no matter what. That is not tolerance.
Well, you have to
it's almost
employ
like that hipster.
you have to employ
Tron.
some intelligence in anything that you do.
Exactly.
I want to bring up the topic that we got into this, that kind of started the conversation about, and we were talking about in France. I want to hit T on a T here with any comments, anything that we need to know, anything we missed.
There was a good one. Oh,
There was one good one.
Little Cosmic Girl on TikTok said, "I'd rather drink piss than Bud Light wine."
Oh man.
Uh,
Did you try it?
I like this chick already.
well, one time when I asked
Very good piss.
I asked Artie to go get me some Bud Light, and she came back with 6 Bud Light limes. And I said to her, I said, like, did you think anything was funny? Like, did the can look off? She's like, oh, what do you mean? Now, obviously, she must not drink as frequently as I do. But for me, like, if I got a regular Budweiser and somebody gave me like an orange can or a purple can, I mean, this is not instantly. I would know it comes in a red and silver, a red and white can. Bud Light is going to be blue and silver.
Blue.
Yeah, it's going to be blue. So I don't know.
I like it. Sorry.
So we had 6 of them the one
I'm
night.
tolerant.
Yeah, well, I have a higher tolerance. So.
But tolerance doesn't mean that you endorse the behavior. You're just kind of saying, like, it doesn't bother me enough that I'm going to actively try and stop it.
So,
And so, like, I'm not saying that, like, this person who's doing the whole IO communing with plant spirits thing should stop doing it. Like, he's not hurting anybody. I care. But at the same time, I can look and be like, that sounds really stupid.
yes. What the topic that led us into this tolerance conversation was what happened. You said it was last week or the week before?
Well,
Roughly 10 days.
Today, there was a fresh attack in France. About 2 weeks ago, there was another set of attacks. And about a month ago, there was another attack. And these are all related loosely to 2015, when the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo published a number of satirical images of the Prophet Muhammad. And it was controversial at the time. Apparently, it's controversial to this day. And Rosh, I'll let you take it from here.
I would just say that I'll just start by saying that we are living similar events in America. This is not something that is pertaining to one area in Europe or anywhere in the world. Extremists, the religion is supposed to unite people, and actually, for the lack of a better word, it's missing the point in terms of it's dividing people. It's dividing people, and it's causing a lot of wars. So now I'm not actually saying religions are bad. For religion, or political opinions or anything like that, they're good for people. Give them faith, give them guidance. But anything that is abused, anything that is misdirected, anything that has a different agenda, ends up harming not only a bunch of people, but the very people that are trying to exercise their right of having their own religions. Right now, the debate is Muslims against Islamists. 2 separate things. Muslims are regular, moderate people trying to practice their religion. Islamists have a different agenda. And it's really, a lot of people are putting them in one bag, and it's a shame.
Well, a lot of people
can you
don't know.
Explain a little bit more about the difference between a Muslim versus an Islamist?
Sure. Just like Zionists and regular Jewish people practicing their religions, there are people that are extremists. We call them, what is it? Extremists. We call them extremists. These are people that have their own agenda. They generate chaos, which generate, war, which generate, a lot of troubles everywhere they go. And people don't look at it as No. It has to be the same club.
Well, I think. So I just searched this. It says Muslims are followers of Islam. And Islam means submission to the will of God. So I imagine if you are identifying with Islam, you are a more extreme version of a Muslim.
So I guess it would be Muslims are those who are like follow the religion of Islam, whereas Islamists are those that are trying to actively convert others to Islam.
It's a lot more deeper than that. They are not recruiting, if that's what you mean. If they are actually recruiting, but Islamists are by all means people that completely change the message that is written in the holy book in the Quran.
So let me just back up because a lot of people don't know what happened with Charlie Hebdo. And Charlie Hebdo, welcome to the conversation, Andres. So Andres is a little hungover from his birthday yesterday. And, no, because he slept until 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, not a bad day.
So we were talking about Charlie Hebdo and the attacks on Charlie Hebdo, which is a French publication. It's a French newspaper. And some Muslim extremists came. They shot up the lobby of the Charlie Hebdo.
The actual office.
Yeah, they shot up.
They broke into the office. They killed a number of writers and publishers there and security staff. It was not good.
And so it started. That was back in a few years ago.
2015, I believe.
2015. And it started this movement where everybody rose against so much intolerance.
The people were intolerant because they believed it was contradictory. The religion doesn't allow images to be published of
that are not flattering.
Of who was it? That guy,
the Prophet Muhammad.
So
it's like the
French newspaper. That's what
right.
And then recently there was a college professor. I think he just showed the images.
High school. It was a middle school teacher.
Middle school
teacher. He showed the images in class as part of a lesson on free speech.
Right.
And
he's
a couple days later. A couple days later, one of his students was super incensed about this and publicly beheaded him. And so that was about 2 weeks ago. This was in France. About a month ago, there was actually, so the offices of Charlie Hebdo used to be at some building in Paris. After the attacks in 2015, the offices of Charlie Hebdo moved to some secret location that hasn't been revealed. So they're still producing the paper, but they have not told the public where the office is to avoid future attacks. But outside the offices the former offices of Charlie Hebdo, somebody stabbed like 2 people outside, and these people weren't even related to the newspaper. They were just like in the office building.
That
was about a month ago.
Yeah.
And so 2 weeks ago, the teacher. Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, the teacher that showed the images of Muhammad that were portrayed by Charlie Hebdo in 2015, he was publicly beheaded by somebody who was upset about the fact that a teacher would show this in school. And then today, there was another attack in Nice, in the south of France, of 3 people that were in a church, and they're still investigating it, obviously. But the thought is that it's going to be a continued reaction to what happened a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, which.
So people are they don't know what to think anymore, because you have people that do their own research, they do their own homework, they know exactly who is the attacker, they know exactly where that stemmed from, what motivated it, what provoked it, and they do separate Muslims and Islamists, and they do understand that. But the majority, they are at the point where enough is enough.
I think we need to be. I think we just need to be preaching more tolerance and techniques to deal with adversity in general in life. I think the cancel culture, the current culture with the cancel culture, people who see or hear something they don't like and want to have everybody boycott it. And I'm really curious where all that energy comes from. I usually am pretty apathetic when it comes to most things. You know, I may mention it, but you know, the homeless people in the city drive me nuts. But you know, I'm not going to start an initiative to clean up the city streets because I'm not that incensed about it. I'm
No,
not.
but then again, in trying to clean up the streets, you mean like in a legal way, in a nice way, where we can place them in other, you know, places where they can have the winter here in New York is super cold.
Well, I wonder
So
what's
they
going to
can have-
happen.
Exactly. That problem solves itself eventually in December or something like that. But then there's also these kind of people that think, or I had a conversation with someone before that were like, we can just, you know, give them food that has poison in there and just no one's gonna claim them, no one's gonna.
But I'm not. I would. That's
You know,
that's
and
not.
so one thing is, what do you want to do, like as a normal human being? I mean, like, hey, let's give them a place to stay where they can, you know, rehabilitate themselves and whatever. And then there's also the other extreme is where you're like, it's just gonna, no one's gonna ask for them. No one's
But what I'm saying is if someone was to do that, where does that feeling originate, and why is it an actionable feeling? People are having these feelings about something they don't like, and they're taking action. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
What do you think makes a human? Society makes a human, or the human itself creates society?
I would cite JFK when he said, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, but rather ask yourself what you can do for your country." And we have. I started earlier by saying we have similar events in the U.S. because you have the tolerance towards bearing arms. You know, people having access to guns and going to school and you know what happened with the massacres. It's not so far fetched from the tolerance we're talking about in terms of religion and extremist religion. So the word is sick, yes. So where do we place the bar of tolerance? And if we tolerate, that means that we stop criticizing. That means we accept everything just because it's nice.
Well, you
Well,
can't
it's-
do that.
But it's people not growing up with somebody calls you a name on the playground. Now you have to have that kid expelled, right? You just can't learn how to.
That's a bit extreme there.
No, I don't think it is. You know, I think it's good to crack down on bullies, but then when anything, even a minor pass,
That's not bullying. That's just building character. We all grew up in high school. Like
Oh,
the way that I grew up in high school was like that was not called bullying. That was like just part being a normal human being.
That's
That's
your perspective.
Exactly, that was my perspective. And you know, somebody used to call me names, and I'll do even worse. I'll call them names. I'll you know, and that's one of the reasons why I think I developed a thicker skin. Going beyond that, when you know call names to other people and things like that, going to the extreme to actually start fighting or creating, you know, a place where you no longer feel secure to go. I think that's something that we should put, you know, like an end to.
Are you pro the message that you know that you have to pressure somebody to see what they made of?
Yeah.
You are. Okay.
But that's because of my point of view. That's because of how I grew up and the way
I got it.
I believe I work best. But there's other people that on pressure they will break.
Right.
Yeah,
Because a
and
lot
not
of people
just
also
because, yeah,
they're
not
not
everybody.
as tough
Yeah.
as you.
I wouldn't say not as tough, but they just haven't lived certain experiences or certain
well,
things.
it comes
you know.
with
Right, it comes with
experience,
experience, exactly.
and it comes
So-
with knowledge.
But then again, for you to get that experience, you also have to, you know, develop or for a second. use.
Granted, absolutely,
You
I
have to
agree.
develop these characteristics where if somebody calls your names or somebody tells you something, you have to like, I got it. Okay, I can let it go. You can grow from there. But if you're so scared to go out there and have these experiences, how are you going to develop?
I totally see where you're coming from. I understand that. However, a lot of kids don't buy into it, and they just get bullied, and then they end up committing suicide.
Yeah.
There's a rising amount of kids that does that, and they just don't know how to counterattack. Not only that, but I must add that we live in an era of the internet where people can cyberbully you, and if you're an adolescent, a teenager, you are really not equipped with facing a crowd that is really coming at you with everything they have.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with parenting as well. I think parents need to
Absolutely.
teach their kids how to take a hit, whether it's a psychological, emotional hit, or it's a physical hit, or you're on a football field or soccer field. But in terms of the pussy culture that we're looking at right now, where everybody is so easily offended, cyberbullying, like. I got a mean comment on LinkedIn the other day. I'll give you an opener. I got a mean comment on LinkedIn. Basically, I posted something about how coronavirus had done some damage to the business. We were in rough shape, and we had to let people go. And there was an overwhelming. To this day, I've never had so many comments and shares and people reaching out to me on that post. But one person said, "I'm glad it happened to this guy. I met him once, and he was a real dick. I hope his business goes down or something like that." And I was just like, I don't even know who this guy is. And I just took a screenshot of his comment and reposted it because I thought it was funny. And that's how I dealt with it. And I think a lot of people should be turning that stuff right back around, because I think it speaks more of the person who's saying things than of the receiver. And also with how the recipient deals with it says a lot about them as well. Do you guys have any comments that we should know about and address?
Somebody sent a present.
Oh, that was very nice. 2 presents for Rush's birthday?
There's a lot of comments.
Okay. You just got to let
I
me
will
know.
never understand how any religion can say that their God accepts killing innocent people.
They are not. Let's set the record straight. This religion, we're talking about Islam, right? Never said to kill anybody. Allah never said anything about that. And you can't even find it in the Quran.
But people read between the lines.
Rush, are you Muslim?
I was.
What are you?
I'm not going to get into it.
No. Like, because I have friends in Charleston, and they're great people. And so I don't think that there should be anything construed in this conversation that we're anti-Islam or anti-Muslims.
Absolutely. No, I would say one thing only is that I don't consider myself religious, but I'm spiritual. So when I said I was, it's because I'm not actively doing anything about it. And I can't decently say I belong to certain religion because I'm not doing anything about it.
Yeah, it's the same way as Catholics.
Yeah.
Just because you're a Catholic doesn't mean you're
Yeah,
a
just
regular
because your parents-
exactly.
Exactly.
Like, 90% of Catholics
You have-
are people that belong to the church.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about church going or goers. It's not about practice. It's about what are you doing about it. So if you're not doing a damn thing about it, can you really decently call yourself, Christian or Muslim, Jewish, whatever? At least I'm honest enough to tell you that I'm not doing anything about it. That's one thing. But also I understand 100% that there's nowhere in the Quran that says it's okay to kill people. So going back to the message of the extremist Islamists, they are just conveying a wrong message. And it's very easy for somebody on the outside to look at it and say, oh, so that's the message from the holy book, the Quran. And
Well, they're doing it in the name of,
yes,
if somebody attacked you and I went over and punched them
exactly.
in protection of you, it didn't, never did you tell me to go punch them.
Imagine for a second that I'm wearing a t-shirt that says the Dijuda Group. And then I go and scam people into renting apartments or buying or things like that. I'm introducing myself on behalf of what actually I never even set a foot in the agency, and I'm not even affiliated.
Look, that's not the business model.
It's definitely not the business model. So far, we get a lot of good reviews, and
But you're getting the idea. It's so easy. But if you do it with enough people, a massive amount of people buy into it, especially when they have no knowledge whatsoever of a certain religion. It's just easy.
well, what?
So let me throw something out here from a philosophy class that I got.
We're all ears.
So I took a class in philosophy called ethics, which is not just ethics in terms of, like, everyone's taken an ethics class, I'm sure at some point, like a professional ethics class or something like that. But philosophy ethics is going to be looking at like the entire history of how ethical philosophy evolved, going all the way back to the beginning of philosophy, ancient Greeks, all the way up through modern day. And so this is the first day of the class, and the professor, this is kind of just an introduction of, all right, what's this class about, and what do you guys think ethics is? And so the professor, who super smart dude, Dr. Santilli from Siena, who's now retired, but I got to throw the name out there. He says, you know what? I'm going to tell you what the answer to ethics is on the first day of class. So that way you guys can just know. I said, all right. And he says, ethics is giving your place to another.
Okay.
Elaborate.
Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but one theme that you'll find in ethical philosophy throughout is going to be the idea of there's you and then there's the other. And so if you view somebody else as another you versus viewing somebody else as the other.
Yes.
And so I think you see a lot of that right now, where we can talk about the United States political landscape, but we'll stay on topic and we'll talk about France and what's going on with the Charlie Hebdo and Islamist extremism. Is that, and this kind of goes both ways, actually.
I think it's good. You can segue that to where you're going. It's
yeah.
very,
So
because you started by saying
for,
you started by saying the way we see others as you see yourself, or you just see others as they are. That actually, we can segue that to what's going on in the U.S. from what's going on in Europe.
Yeah, so I can tie this back to the United States very easily, but I want to stay on topic with France right now, which is that, so to the French people, and this is the problem with French secularism, which I generally endorse, but with French secularism, if they're looking at Islamism and Muslims as the other, then they're going to treat it insensitively to the point where they're going to inflame tensions because they see them as not like themselves. They see them as the other. So we don't need to worry about offending them because they're the other. And so the natural response from people that might be on the cusp of being radicalized, but not necessarily, is when they feel like they're being treated as the other, it's very easy for them to look at French society as the other. And so if you're killing the other, it's much less offensive internally than if you're killing someone that is of your own kind. And so you can look at the people that have killed people in France, and so you've got the Islamists that are killing people, and they're looking at the French citizens that they're killing the other. It's not really killing, it's killing the other. They don't look at them as the same in-group. And that's the problem. And so part of me thinks about some stories that I've heard from like 1950s and 1960s KKK, where the story that I think of is there was a guy that was a member of the KKK that a black person approached and actually befriended and said, look, let me show you what being black is really like in this country at this time. And the black person didn't treat the KKK member as an other. He treated him as a fellow person. And to the KKK member's credit, he was willing to listen. And once he started to listen and stop treating the black person as an other, then they could start to have a conversation and realize that they weren't dissimilar. And so,
but it's also really easy to be radicalized when that's what you're surrounded with, and that's what you know.
And when you are fragile.
So this keeps on circling back to stop seeing other people as the other.
The other.
It's
when they are vulnerable, when they don't have an identity, when they are young, when their brain is still, wide open like a sponge, it's very easy to do. And so it's a great marketing for the whoever is recruiting, because they're not targeting something that is, the fabric of this person is so set into their ways that it's very hard to break them. They just go to these innocent young people that are having problems with either their country or their families or their religion, or they have a breakup.
Or all of them.
All of them, all the above. and they go, listen, we offering you a way in, actually a way out, and this is how you do it. So
Rush, let me double up on that, because I think you're onto something, which is if you take somebody, so a lot of these people are mid to late teens, so they're going through a lot of changes in their life in a variety of different ways. And if you're a Muslim growing up in France, which is a highly secularized society, you're already feeling like you don't identify with society.
absolutely.
You're mid to late teens, you don't really know what you want. So if you're somebody in your mid to late 30s that has a solid idea as to how to sell these kind of things, these ideas to somebody, what better group to target than someone who's going through a personal identity crisis in a country where they don't feel like they're fully accepted? It's very easy to paint the whole country and the secular society as the other.
Absolutely, and you are absolutely on point. You absolutely recap the situation very accurately.
Well, yeah, but what I want to understand is how an entire country can look at anybody who crosses the border, comes from somewhere else, as the other, especially when it's a country like the U.S., where
Ooh, that's
we came from all over the place. It's only been a few decades, and now we're like, yeah, we're not into that anymore. Or same thing with, I was in England during Brexit, and like the day that they voted to pass it, it was really, there was a major undertone of what was England and what was Britain, and it was mostly it was a white English person, and it wasn't, I never had that experience in England. Everybody I knew in England was very different. London is a very diverse place. It's like New York City. But then going to the north of England, which is kind of like the inverse of the U.S., it's like the south of the U.S., where people are, I don't know, more racist, I would think, and kind of, it's definitely
More prejudice, yeah.
more prejudice.
More
yeah.
prejudice.
But it's a reverse in England, and I happened to be in the north for a wedding on the day of Brexit, and like there were some bars that have the England flag, like not the Union Jack, but the white England flag. You don't want to talk about?
Right. The equivalent of the Southern
Confederate
flag. Ha. Yeah, you see that a lot in South Carolina.
But in the north of England, you see a lot of the original white English flag, which I don't know enough about it.
And they have their own statues.
And I realized though that the bars and the pubs that had all those flags outside, the people I was with were not, we weren't welcome in those places at all. So, well, the people I was with.
Yeah.
I'll explain.
Well, so let's start by talking about.
Can I add something really quick, James? Because
go ahead, man.
Just to add to what you said, that was you probably heard about this guy named Morgan Spurlock. He's got a show on TV called 30 Days.
He's the guy who made Super Size, right?
Exactly, Super Size by McDonald's. He in one of the episodes was about a border patrol, an American border patrol officer that was working on the border between Texas and Mexico, and he got to know a family of illegal immigrant from Mexico. I don't know if you saw the show, but
I haven't, but I'm interested.
It really goes in the same vein that with the story that you just explained earlier, where about the African American person talking to a member of the KKK. This person accepted to go inside somebody's house, the old immigrant, and they are he's trying to get your attention. Okay, and he just accepted to leave a couple of days because the show is called 30 Days. He accepted to live with this family, and there was a bond between him and this family that was created because for once he just put down the hat that he was proudly wearing just to open his mind and expand his horizon about what these people must live like every single day.
So they were no longer the other.
Yes. And then it expanded his horizon and his tolerance. And at the end of the show, I don't want to ruin, but he was a different man.
Ruin it. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that you should probably watch. It's very educational.
Yeah,
And-
I think you're hitting on a different problem as well. Education, because as I said before, I've been here for 5 years. And 5 years ago, I was not the exact same person that I am right now.
You used to be younger, right?
I used to be younger.
Yeah.
Of course.
So.
Fuck you. I'm only 27.
No,
turned
you're 28.
No, I just turned 27 yesterday.
You know, you were saying 28 the whole time, right?
Yeah, you literally were.
Oh, fuck.
So 5 years ago, you were younger,
5 years ago, I was younger.
and this was before, right?
Yeah, I've been here in
Okay.
the US for 5 years, and the US literally changed my train of thought in a whole different way compared to when I was in Ecuador. Back then, when I was in Ecuador, as we had this conversation before, I was very homophobic. I was very racist with my own kind, not even with, we're just, we don't have white people there, brown people and black people.
Kudos for saying it, first of all.
And so I was
I respect
racist.
that.
I was racist with my own kind because of the last name, not even because of their skin color, just because of the last name. Something super stupid. I was 21, I was 19, I was 18, and I grew up on a circle of people that made me believe that was the right way to actually behave, to be. And now that I look back at it, I acted like a fucking terrorist. I was super stupid. And all of that changed when I came to the US, and I just didn't come to the US, I came to New York. And in New York,
Melting
you have
pot.
so many cultures, so many people from so many backgrounds, and so many ideas and ways that they feel and ways that they love, and different sexual orientations and whatever. And when I came here, one of the first persons that actually helped me out the most, either learning the language, moving around and everything, was a gay guy that didn't look like gay. He was just a regular human being. I found out that he was gay when we went out to this party. He was like, "Hey, do you want to come over with my boyfriend?" I was like, "Your boyfriend? What do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah, my boyfriend." I was like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gay." But in my mind, gay people were like mentally ill. Were, I don't know, these demons that got possessed and took over people and whatever. That's something that you believe in Ecuador, and people think that if you're gay, you're possessed by the devil and whatever, and all of these things. But it's just a lack of education. When I came here and I saw him, and he actually guided me through all these things, he made me understand that the wrongs that I did before, and the horrible things that I used to say or tell to people. And that made me change to be the person that I am now. A more comprehensive, more open-minded, and more educated human being. Because I think that's what we're lacking in every single aspect of racism. Racism is a lack of education.
It's knowledge.
It's a lack of
Education
education.
and
You don't have,
experience.
you don't have the experience or the person to talk to be, as James says, to be the other person, to be in the other person's shoes. Because I think that's the best way for you to understand them and learn about them.
And sometimes the best way is actually to take a leap of faith of trying to live like that, not live like that person, because that's too much asking, but at least travel, go somewhere, talk to people different that are different from you. Even in terms of culinary, like
Oh
try
my
different
God, food, yeah.
cuisine.
Come on.
anything.
It doesn't even require. I would argue that
We
it doesn't require any of the things that you guys are saying. Like
Well,
that,
but-
any of the things that you guys are saying are all great steps, but it does require that level of commitment. It just requires a shift in thought to being able to consider the other person that you're talking to as like you. You don't even have to do anything that they do. You just have to look at them like you look at yourself.
Did I tell you about the time where I was invited over a friend's house in South Carolina, and I was literally
Where in South Carolina?
in Savannah. So
That's not South Carolina.
excuse me. In not South Carolina. In Savannah, Georgia. I was invited in a friend's house, and one of the guests thought I was an intruder. So I was in that.
What?
Because the way I look, or maybe in my accent. So basically, approached me very politely. It's like, "Hey, who you know here?"
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I saw it coming so from a mile away, and I played the game. I was not offended whatsoever. I was smiling, and I said, "No, well, this is my friend over there," and they invited me over. He said, "Oh, okay, you sound kind of like interesting." He didn't want to say anything that is derogatory. He said, "Where are you from?" So
Yeah.
I let him guess, and he could not pinpoint where I was from, but it was entertaining for me for a moment. But then
Well, what was your answer for where you were from?
I told him somewhere from North Africa. He said, "You." I mean, he did this. He said, You're not black." So that shows already
That's
the,
something all
the level. Yeah,
Wait,
there's a big. But let's go even further. Maybe 20 minutes in, I finally told them that this is my wife right there, and I'm married to this this lady that is an American person. And all of a sudden, you can see the relief on his face. He backed off. He was like, "Ah!"
He was about to call ICE.
Basically, yeah. And it's a shame, but I didn't make a big deal out of it because it's not the first time I was made to feel that.
I say you should drop his name right now, and we should really blow it up. We can get
I
him
really don't know his
fired.
name. I
We
really
can get
don't
him
know his
fired.
name.
We can get his car repossessed. We can have his home foreclosed on.
But people
We
would
can just
do
cancel.
that.
yo, Savannah's 2 hours away from me. I can be there like before the end of the night.
No,
Yeah.
you don't even have to go that far.
We
You
should
live, you
blow
live,
this
you live
up.
in Charleston, South Carolina, and I bought a house on Daniel Island, and I was.
You lived on Daniel Island?
Yeah, I lived in Daniel Island for 4 years. I bought a house there,
It's a weird place.
but it's a great place. It's a great place to live. It's very manicure. It's like your, Wisteria Lane. If you're into.
Have you seen the movie Stepford Wives?
Yes, that's why I was. That's why I was referring to Wisteria Lane, which is the house. What is it called? The housewives of
the housewives of South Carolina.
Yeah, basically.
Oh yeah, God, no, let's
You know what
not
I'm
do
saying?
that. But like,
But
whenever I go to Daniel Island, which is infrequent, I just think fucking Stepford Wives.
it's very manicured. Everything is so.
It's new. It's new. So everything is
brand
very
new,
new, and
but
people are.
it's high end. And the reason I mentioned South Carolina is precisely buying a house in that type of upscale neighborhood. It's because I was always made feel a foreigner because I was not blonde blue eyes, and I'm not saying that the majority of people living there, but you're not gonna see somebody else looking at me or sounding like me in on that island. It doesn't exist.
No, not really.
And I was driving.
Oh, I remember Rice's car.
I was driving a rickety garbage 1994 Ford Explorer, falling apart. $700.
I think like the door was tied
The
out.
door. I was holding the door with my hand at some point because it was just falling, so I had to work down the windows.
And that builds character.
Yes,
Come on,
exactly.
everybody
Yeah.
can drive a shit car at some
Right.
point in their life
But
and just suck it up and realize that you're more than this car. Like you can't.
people spend so many hundreds and thousands of dollars on a piece of car that has 4 wheels to take you from A to B. I refuse to do that. My car did the job, but my car did not look the part where at the right setting. So I was looked at the guy that was here to cut the grass.
James,
And I was conscious about it, but it's still so entertaining. I didn't make a big deal of it, but
well, you
it is what it is.
because you're tolerant and you're understanding of where other people and where their perspective is coming from.
and
James-
this is why I live here. I live here in New York, just like Andres said, because it's a big melting pot of cultures. It's nobody would look at you in New York,
in a different way.
in a
But
different
they-
way just because
But they
you have
will
a
tell
different
you.
origin.
They will tell you to go fuck yourself on the
Absolutely.
street. So,
Yeah, but that's deserved.
James,
That's
you
how you
were
build
gonna
character,
say
you
something
know?
about the U.S. A couple minutes back.
Well, I was gonna respond to what you were talking about.
Before you talk, someone said volunteering at different culture centers is a great way to start to learn about other people's cultures.
Yeah,
Agree.
I agree. It's a good thing.
So you were talking about, you mentioned something about the other and where the United States currently stands, especially when it comes to immigration policy.
Yeah.
And I think that ties in as perfectly as it possibly can to my general theorem piggybacking off of my professor's idea of the other. So why do we demonize immigrants? Because they are the other. They don't share our culture. They don't share our language. They don't share the perception is that they don't share anything about this country that we do. Whereas I don't think that that's truly the case.
Well,
But
then how do
why
you
is it
define
so
American culture?
demonize immigrants? Because we can easily make them the other. They're coming from a different place. They speak a different language. They look different than us.
But then define our culture. What is it? Applebee's and Fridays and baseball.
Well,
Is baseball?
well,
Is it baseball? And
yo, baseball's big in Mexico. Mexico loves baseball.
Yeah, but it does it come from cricket or is it?
No, the whole idea is it doesn't matter what our culture is. It's whatever these.
Spend 30 seconds and define what our culture is. And then
I'm not going to because the point is
American food. I'm having a hot dog and a hamburger. I'm not even if I have pizza, that's Italian. If I have Chinese food, that's Chinese. If I have Mexican food,
hamburger's a German word.
So you
hot dog, Frankfurter, German.
So let's define American food and let's define American, not defined from somewhere else. All you have to do is just one level deep.
Look, I'm going to come with the counterfactual here, and
more, you make it bigger. If you have a Mexican taco, have you had a taco in Mexico? It's a small thing. It's a little thing in the palm of your hand.
Well,
whereas in New York, you have Taco Bell that gives you this chalupa.
Yeah, but so let me just go with the counterfactual here, which is that your point is correct and well received, but for the people that are anti-immigrant or demonizing immigrants, it doesn't matter what American culture is. That the people coming across the border are the other. So whatever American culture is, they're not. It doesn't matter what they believe. You'll be able to find something that they believe that's counter to whatever you think American culture is. So again, I can find something in you to make you the other. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that this is how it works.
That's the definition of other.
Right. But it doesn't matter how similar they are to us or what their hopes and dreams, whether or not their aspirations line up with American values. I'm going to be able to, if I have in my head, I want to make you demonized in some way, then I'm going to be able to find one small difference and be able to blow it up and magnify it, that you are now the other, and I can try and say that you shouldn't be here. James, I'm not arguing for this case, but that's how it works.
James, funny story about that. It's people sometimes in their own home, in their own country, feel like they have not been acknowledged, or the perception of the foreigner that's coming and visiting their own country is rigged, is completely different. Here's an example. In 2013, I went with Robin to Tunisia, North Africa. It was her first time. And she's American.
2013?
I think it was 2013, yeah. We went to...
Are you Tunisian?
I am, yeah, among other things. I'm really...
Rush is Tunisian, born in Switzerland, grew up in France, lived in South Carolina, lived in New York twice. Am I missing anything?
American.
And now you're an official American.
I'm French American.
Congratulations, congratulations. I haven't seen you since then.
I know.
So
it's so recent.
Your handshake feels different. Feels much more American.
So yeah. I do consider myself to be an international citizen because I have 3 citizenships. I speak 4 languages. I do not pick one country or one language over another. I'm accepting of all of my heritage, and it makes me who I am. But I don't feel like I am more this or more that. I love that universality about my travels and the culture. I really treasure, and I haven't always done that. But as you grow, as you mature, you come to understand that you are all of these bits and pieces. But going back to the example 2013. Robin she never set a foot outside of the U.S. other than going to Mexico. and so that was a big leap of faith for her to go there. And she had some preconceived idea, but she was open to try new things. But anyway, long story short, we land in Tunisia, go to the hotel and whatnot. And one of these days we take a cab. So in Tunisia, I know that when you take a cab, you have to sit, at least one of us has to sit in the front. It's just the way it is.
Why?
It's just the way it is. You know, you don't sit in the back, especially if you're one. You just don't sit. So snobbish. You know,
Really?
well, yeah, it's very snobbish to sit in the back. You just sit in the front and you just bond with the driver.
Cab drivers in New York City, when you get in the front, like
I
they're
know.
like, oh, hold on.
Yeah. And they have a lot of things on the passenger seat.
Yeah.
They have a bag, they have everything. But in Tunisia, they welcome that. And it would originally
All right, so that's the culture.
It's a culture thing. So, of course,
Okay.
like saying that I jumped in the front and she went in the back. But before that, I told her to say hello. I taught her how to say hello in the native language.
Mm-hmm.
So sure enough, she
What's the native language?
Tunisian, which is Arabic. So she said,
Okay.
Salaam alaikum, which is hello. And she said that with her accent, and the guy turned, almost broke his neck. He turned around, and then he looked at me, and he spoke to me in Tunisian. He's like, "This is your wife?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "She just spoke my language and greeted me." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You guys are coming home having dinner with us."
What the fuck?
What? That's great.
Was he drunk?
Now this. No,
That's something that I will say when I'm drunk.
it's sad if you really think about
You
it.
say
It's,
hola to me. Come to my house. Let's have something to drink.
it's sad if you really think about it, because this person was so overwhelmed that one foreigner came into his cab, greeted him in his own language. His response was so overwhelming that he had to invite us over to have a meal with his family. That really, I mean, besides the
I
comments,
mean, I would have been honored if I were you. Like, that's great.
it's
That's
mind-boggling. And I couldn't believe that this is like a event for him, but it is. And it's sad because every day he deals with people that are intolerant. He picks them up from the hotel. They speak to him in a different language that he might not be familiar with, but he makes it. And for once, somebody went his way, his story, and said hello. And all of a sudden, he changed his ways.
Did
It's
you
like,
eat dinner with the guy?
we actually went to his house, but he took us. We wanted to go to do some shopping. He took us to this. He waited for us. He's like, "Don't get another cab. I'll wait
Wow.
for you."
Wow.
And he opened the door as we were coming back with the bags. It's insane. Insane. This is how. So to tell you that sometimes when you are oppressed, it's not, because it could be in your country, but because of the perception of you is so rigged and it's so different. Your response is overwhelming, and I just wanted to mention that.
So we got to wrap in a minute. I got a funny story for you about my friend's parents when they first moved here. They lived in Queens and they didn't speak English. And they were playing with a kid or something in the backyard. The frisbee got thrown into the neighbor's yard, and they spoke Spanish, and like right from I think they were Cuban. I could be wrong, maybe Puerto Rican. And this was a long time ago. So his parents are probably in the 90s now. So this is way back. And they threw the frisbee, and the person threw it back, and they said thank you. So in Spanish, James, when you say gracias, what's the response?
De nada.
Which means
For nothing.
nothing.
No, don't worry about it.
Okay. So they said thank you because they know thank you. And the person said, "You're welcome." Now that doesn't translate in Spanish exactly. So they were like, oh, okay. And then they went back inside and they were like, they're inviting us over. They're inviting.
You're welcome.
They deliberated on this and decided they had been invited. And decided they had been invited
It is
for
a
dinner.
mistake.
Funny.
They decided they had been
They
invited
overstayed their welcome, basically.
for dinner, and they showed up at the front door.
Really? That's so funny.
I think they ate dinner together too, but I don't know. I just think that story is hilarious.
That's hilarious, actually.
About the mistranslation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why I think also learning languages helps you allow a tolerance because it gives you another perspective. Not that I know any other languages.
I mean, not
Well,
only that. Not only
It
that,
also puts you in a bold.
I-
It also makes you vote because you're like, fuck, I don't understand anything that these people are saying. I hope I'm getting this right.
yeah,
No, but I think like you see when you get a computer, for example, or an iPhone now, you get updates every 6 to 8 months. I think learning a language on the human race is like an update because I kid you not. Before I learned
It's
English,
more and more
Don't
knowledgeable.
before I learned this new language that I'm barely talking,
English?
I didn't see the world the way that I see it now. And I think learning this new language actually made me open up my mind in a whole
It does
different way.
expand
It
your
actually
horizons.
upgraded me, and that's the reason why I love languages as well. I speak English, I speak Spanish, I speak Italian, and I'm working on my way to speak a different language as well. And it's like an upgrade on everything that you kind of see a different point of view. It's a lot easier to be on other people's shoes, and it's a lot easier to comprehend a different topic.
Just one thing, since you're talking about languages, speaking a language is not just literally speaking a language. It doesn't just stop there. Speaking a language is an immersive way of understanding the culture. You can actually just, throughout ways of traveling or way of.
You can't really get that experience unless you're actually there, though.
Yeah, but you can also meet people locally in your own place that speak different languages, and just interacting with them or going to parties or getting together. And
That's how that
the figure of speech are so different, is so revealing about how nice a culture could be, just because they have a different way of putting things.
Oh, that's very tough to learn. Also,
Debbie saying happy belated birthday, Rush. Debbie Ferry.
Thank you, Debbie.
All right, guys, we're past the 7:30 mark, so we gotta close down. Any last minute comments, real quick, that we should address, and let's get on quick, and then we'll close up.
Oh, someone said if there wasn't an quote other, what a beautiful world it would be.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think it was President Ronald Reagan that said the only way. Earlier, I mentioned JFK, and now I'm like, so American.
Wow, you just yeah.
But Reagan said the day we will all get together, and I'm just paraphrasing. It's not quote unquote. The day we all get together is that if we were attacked by an alien entity.
Yeah, if we see another, a different race.
Exactly.
Just a normal
I thought that was
race.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. That was Reagan. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. James, I'll catch up with you later. Welcome back to the East
The
Coast.
East Coast.
Yeah. All right, guys. See you later.
All right, cheers. Rosh, happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome back.
All right, that's the end of the episode. Thank you for joining us. If you have not liked or subscribed to this podcast, you're doing me a disservice. That's not very nice. I don't like it. If you have, I love you. See you guys later.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.